up, guys? It's Kayla
and Jim.
Welcome back to another Meteorology Monday. What are we talking about today?
Today we are going to do a post-assessment on the 2024 Atlantic Basin hurricane season. Basically, you go through a hurricane season, and within the next month or two in the new year, take a look at all that compiled data and kind of go through what happened in the previous year. They do have assessments for the Pacific region and other areas of the world, but today we're going to be focused more on the Atlantic Basin. We're going to talk about how many storms formed, how many were major hurricanes, what hit the U.S. Won't go into every single thing, but we do have some interesting statistics that we want to share with you as well. But before we get started,
if you find that you are enjoying this video along the way, be sure to leave a like and subscribe down below so you never miss the next Meteorology Monday. So now let's get into the 2024 post-hurricane season assessment. These are done to determine how accurate the forecasts were, how well they lined up with what was actually observed, and they look at things like
how many named storms occurred,
how many of those were hurricanes,
how many were major hurricanes,
how are those compared to the average,
how many made landfall. So we took a look at some reports from the NOAA Climate Prediction Center as well as Colorado State University. Those are the two leading entities that put out hurricane forecasts every year. And they put them out, I think, in April, and then one later into the summer, and then late summer. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at their overall forecast for that season and then compare it with what actually happened.
So starting off with named storms, which have wind speeds of 39 miles per hour or greater. The Climate Prediction Center was expecting 17 to 24 storms. CSU was expecting 23 to 25 storms. The amount of named storms we actually had last year was 18, and the 30-year average is 14, so a little bit above normal.
For hurricanes of winds of 74 miles per hour or greater, CPC had 8 to 13 storms, while CSU had 11 to 12. We observed 11 in 2024, and that was above the average of 7.
And wrapping it up with major hurricanes, which have wind speeds of 111 miles per hour or greater, CPC was expecting 4 to 7, CSU 5 to 6. Actually observed 5 of these last year, and the average was 3, so still above normal.
So just for some clarity here, the observed number of storms was 18. So out of the 18, 11 of them became hurricanes, and out of that 11, 5 became major hurricanes. So it's not the sum total of 18, 11, and 5.
Right.
It's just we have subcategories within that 18. So just to be clear on what those numbers mean.
And for that average, that is the 30-year climatological average for the region, and as you can see, for all 3 of those categories, 2024 was pretty well above.
So taking a look again at the table, we see that CPC pretty much nailed it. CSU had more storms form overall, so they were a little bit high, but the rest of their numbers actually worked out to be what we observed.
Yeah.
As with every year, they always have a list of names for the storms. Editing Kayla is going to pop up a graphic for us right now to show us how far into the names we got this year.
As you can see, we were in danger of going into the Greek letters. We got so far into this thing. Of course, I don't know. Do we still do the Greek letters? I think we outlawed the Greek letters. Either way, pretty darn far into the list for last year.
What would it go into? I don't know.
I don't know. Well, we've retired Greek names before, so I...
Oh, like if it's Hurricane Alpha and
right,
it was destructive, they retired Alpha?
So I think,
what would they replace?
I think we've gotten rid of some of the Greek letters, so...
Interesting.
We're gonna have to look into that farther.
Yes, well look, and if you know what it is, go ahead and comment below. Now let's take a look at some of the hurricanes that actually made landfall in the continental U.S.
5 hurricanes made landfall in the continental U.S. in 2024, with 2 storms making landfall as major hurricanes. These included Beryl, Debbie, Francine, Helene, and Milton, with the 2 major hurricanes being Helene and Milton. Combined, these storms caused about 250 fatalities and preliminary damage estimates of over $100 billion.
2024 hurricane
Now, with the ongoing relief effort for Helene still taking place in eastern Tennessee and western North Carolina, these numbers are definitely preliminary.
Let's take a look at a few comments from staff members at CPC and CSU. The impactful and deadly 2024 hurricane season started off intensely, then relaxed a bit before roaring back, said Matthew Rosenkrantz, lead hurricane forecaster at NOAA's Climate Prediction Center, a division of NOAA's National Weather Service. Several possible factors contributed to the peak season lull in the Atlantic region. The particularly intense winds and rains over Western Africa created an environment that was less hospitable for storm development. Colorado State University's report mentioned the extremely active Atlantic hurricane season was likely driven in part by record or near record warm sea surface temperatures in the tropical Atlantic and Caribbean. The tropical Pacific was characterized by cool, neutral ENSO conditions, which favor more conducive Atlantic hurricane conditions due to reduced levels of vertical wind shear, which is the change in wind direction and speed with height. The combination of extremely warm Atlantic sea surface temperatures and cool, neutral ENSO contributed to record low levels of tropical Atlantic and Caribbean vertical wind shear during August to October. The Tropical Weather and Climate Research Team attributed the general upturn in major hurricane activity since 1995, as well as the earlier increase in major hurricane activity from the late 1940s through the mid-1960s, to be primarily due to natural multi-decadal variability in the strength of the Atlantic Multi-Decadal Oscillation, AMO. So Kayla, what does ENSO stand for?
ENSO is the El Niño Southern Oscillation, so again talking about those big worldwide global weather patterns.
Now let's take a look at some record-setting storms for this past year.
Hurricane Beryl, which was the earliest Atlantic Basin Category 5 hurricane on record. Hurricane Helene, which made landfall as a Category 4 hurricane along the Florida Gulf Coast on September 26th. This storm caused catastrophic flooding across the southern Appalachians. Widespread wind damage from the Gulf Coast to the North Carolina mountains and storm surge flooding along portions of western Florida were observed. Early indications are that Helene was the deadliest hurricane to affect the continental U.S. since Hurricane Katrina in 2005, with more than 150 direct fatalities, the majority of which occurred in North Carolina and South Carolina. Hurricane Helene marked the first time ever that NOAA's National Hurricane Center forecasted a system to become a major hurricane before it became a tropical depression or a tropical storm. The National Weather Service was forecasting extreme rainfall totals and rates over western North Carolina more than 48 hours in advance. Hurricane Milton, which made landfall as a Category 3 hurricane along the Florida west-southwest coast on October 9th. This storm created a tornado outbreak that produced 46 tornadoes and caused torrential rainfall and localized flooding, with total rainfall amounts of 10 to 15 inches and higher. Milton produced a destructive storm surge between Siesta Key, Florida, and Fort Myers Beach, Florida, including Charlotte Harbor. Milton's rate of rapid intensification was among the highest ever observed, with a 90-mile-per-hour increase in wind speed during the 24-hour period from early October 6th to early October 7th. The National Hurricane Center's first forecast for Hurricane Milton indicated the potential of a major hurricane landfall along the coast of west central Florida almost 2 days before it formed into one, and more than 4 days prior to landfall.
Did you really just say Appalachians?
I did. I did.
All right, let's start it, guys. Let's start it.
No, we're not going to start it.
Is
Okay.
it Appalachians or Appalachians? Depends on where you're from.
We say Appalachian, but it's Western North Carolina, so it's the Appalachians. I was being respectful, okay?
Comment below, guys.
Now let's get into some other statistics for the 2024 Atlantic Hurricane Basin, which include
11 hurricanes formed in the Atlantic. 2024 tied with 1995 for 5th place for hurricanes produced in the satellite era of 1966 to the present. 5 hurricanes made landfall in the continental U.S., being Beryl, Debbie, Francine, Helene, and Milton. This year tied with 1893, 2004, and 2005 for the second most continental U.S. hurricane landfalls. The years 1886, 1985, and 2020 had 6 continental U.S. hurricane landfalls, the most on record. No named storms formed in the Atlantic between August 13th to September 8th. The last time this occurred was in 1968. 11 named storms formed in the Atlantic since September 24th. This year, 2024, is tied with 2005 for the record for the most named storm formations from September 24th to the end of the hurricane season. 7 hurricanes formed in the Atlantic since September 25th, the most on record from the 25th of September onwards to the end of the hurricane season. Kirk, Leslie, and Milton were hurricanes simultaneously. The first time on record that the Atlantic had 3 hurricanes simultaneously from October to the end of the hurricane season. Hurricane Beryl became a Category 5 hurricane on July 2nd, the earliest forming Atlantic Category 5 hurricane on record. The prior record was Emily in 2005 on July 17th. Hurricane Helene, a Cat 4 with 120 knot winds, was the strongest hurricane to make landfall in the Big Bend region of Florida on record. The prior record was the Cedar Keys hurricane in 1896, which was a Category 3 at 110 knots. Hurricane Milton had a lifetime minimum central pressure of 897 millibars, the lowest for an Atlantic hurricane since Wilma in 2005. Hurricane Rafael was only the second major hurricane on record in the Gulf of Mexico in November. The other Gulf major hurricane in November was Kate in 1985.
So 2024 was an insane Atlantic hurricane season. We talked about Hurricane Beryl, which we do have a full case study on if you're interested in checking that out. Beryl itself broke so many records, not only talking about the continental US, but all the places that it impacted before it even made it to the US. So if you want to check that out, it'll be linked in the description box.
So every year they come out with their post-assessment, and then they come out with a new assessment for the current year.
Yep.
So for 2025, the first early predictions by both of these entities, CPC and CSU, will come out sometime in April of this year.
So look for a video on that come April. So there you have it, the 2024 Atlantic hurricane season post-analysis. Again, if you like what you saw, be sure to leave a like and subscribe down below so you never miss the next Meteorology Monday. Follow us over on our weather adventures, Facebook and Instagram popping up here. And if you want to support the channel, our Patreon is a great way to do that. It'll also be linked in the description box. While you're down there, check out School of Weather if you are ready to take your weather knowledge to the next level. It's a series of online courses hosted by us. We're there to answer any questions you have along the way, as well as having access to PDF guides that walk you through it all. Learn at your own pace. It is the first link in the description box.
And one of the courses in Tier 2 is on hurricanes.
It is! So what are you doing waiting around here? Go join School of Weather today. Until next time, I'm Kayla.
And I'm Jim.
Thanks for watching.
And we'll see you at the next Meteorology Monday. Those were big words.
Those were big words.
Those are big words. I'm laying on the floor.
You did great.